The Wire is AI generated. Just like humans, AI sometimes gets it wrong. Trust but verify the information contained in this podcast.
Welcome to The Wire, Agent Edition, the week in real estate presented in digestible bites. Hold on while our AI hosts take us on another ride through this week's top real estate headlines.
You know, it always gets me, it's so simple, but so powerful. A handwritten thank you note.
It's true. In this day and age, with everything being digital, you get a handwritten note, and it's like, wow.
Right. It's personal. It's memorable. It makes you feel seen,
Absolutely. And I think that's something that we're seeing more and more of in real estate, too, that emphasis on personal connection.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, for starters, a recent Zillow survey found that something like half of agents say their brokerage has this thing called a private listing network, or a PLN.
PLNs. Okay. I've heard about these. It's like secret listings, right?
Right.
What's the story there?
Yeah, basically, it's where agents share listings amongst themselves, but they're not on the public MLS.
So it's like an exclusive club, but for houses.
Exactly.
But I mean, doesn't that limit the options for buyers who aren't in the loop?
That's the big question, right? And there are definitely differing opinions. Some folks think PLNs dried up prices because there's less competition, but others, even Zillow research, suggests that they can actually lead to lower sale prices than homes listed publicly.
Huh. So it's not so clear cut. Are there any legal issues with these PLNs?
It's kind of a gray area, legally speaking. The whole industry is watching closely to see how things shake out. Speaking of legal stuff, though, there's been a lot of talk about potential antitrust lawsuits.
Oh, right. I think I read something about that.
Yeah, it's all about buyer agent fees. Some real estate coaches, like Daryl Davis, are warning that agents who commit sellers to a specific buyer agent fee could be setting themselves up for trouble, legally speaking.
Yikes. It's a reminder that agents really need to stay on top of all the legal developments, right?
For sure. It's about protecting themselves and their clients.
Totally. It's a constantly changing landscape. You know what else seems to be changing a lot lately?
What's that?
The whole co-buying situation. It feels like more and more unmarried couples are buying homes together these days.
You're right. It's definitely a trend. And you know what? Navigating co-ownership can be a little tricky. There was an article in RIS Media that really emphasized how important a detailed co-ownership agreement is.
I can imagine. You need to be super clear when you're talking about something as big as buying a home.
Absolutely. The article stressed that it's all about addressing those potential issues up front.
Makes sense. What kind of issues are we talking about here?
Well, things like mortgage payments, of course, and who is responsible for maintenance, and what happens to the property if the relationship ends, the tough stuff.
It sounds like good communication and a solid plan are super important, whether you're an agent or a co-buyer.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's all about being proactive. And that brings me to something else I was reading about in Housing Wire. Agents are really turning to technology, not just for marketing, but for time management, too.
Time management. Okay, I get that. We're not just talking social media, though, right?
No. It's way more than that. There are tools for document management, transaction management, and even apps that, get this, restrict social media use so you can actually focus on work.
Wait, apps that block social media? Where can I get one of those? But seriously, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Using technology to work smarter, not harder.
Totally. It's all about freeing up more time for what really matters, those meaningful interactions with clients.
Like writing those thank you notes we were talking about.
Exactly. It's amazing how things come full circle.
It is. So we've got personal connections, legal challenges, technology, and all these new trends emerging. It sounds like real estate is really keeping us on our toes.
Yeah. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet.
Okay, bring it on. I'm ready to dive deeper.
It's funny, a lot of these articles, they kind of touch on similar themes.
I see what you mean. It's like there's a real push for being more proactive in real estate these days.
Yeah, exactly. Agents are setting clear expectations about communication, or buyers and sellers are putting together these detailed co-ownership agreements.
Right. Like thinking ahead, anticipating potential problems.
Exactly. That ounce of prevention thing.
Yeah.
And it feels like that proactive mindset is even more important now, given where the market's at.
Why do you say that?
Well, for one thing, we talked about those legal challenges facing agents with those antitrust lawsuits.
Right. That's definitely a big concern for a lot of people in the industry.
For sure. And then there's the bigger economic picture, too. Remember those housing market predictions from Zillow that we discussed?
Oh, yeah. I think they were saying 2025 would be a more balanced market, right? Maybe give buyers a little more leverage.
Exactly. And we're starting to see some of that play out.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, inventory is still pretty low, but not as crazy as it was last year. And with mortgage rates still around like 7%, buyers are being a lot more picky.
So it's not that wild, wild west we saw back in 23 and 24.
Not quite. It's more nuanced. And that means agents need to be even more strategic.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What does that look like, though? Like, practically speaking.
Well, it means thinking beyond the usual stuff, thinking outside the box.
Okay, I'm listening. Give me an example.
Oh, let's go back to those thank you notes we were talking about before.
Sure.
It's always nice to send one after closing, right? But what if you took it a step further?
What do you have in mind?
What if you sent a thank you to the neighbors of your listing?
Oh, wow. I like that.
Right. Acknowledge any inconvenience they might have had during the sale process.
Yeah, like all the extra cars and stuff from showings.
Exactly. Plus, it's a subtle way to introduce yourself, just in case they might be thinking about selling down the road.
Planting seeds for future business. I love it. It's those little touches that can really make a difference.
Exactly. And speaking of making a difference, remember we were talking about hosting open houses for other agents?
Oh, yeah. It's a great way for new agents to get some experience.
It is. But even agents who've been around for a while can use it strategically.
Oh, okay.
How so?
Don't just offer to host any open house, right? Be choosy. Pick the listings that are going to attract your ideal clients.
So, like, if you specialize in luxury properties, you wouldn't want to do an open house for a starter home, right?
Exactly. It's about using your time wisely, focusing your energy where it matters most.
That's a good point. It's so easy to get caught up in busy work, but it doesn't always move the needle.
You got it. And you know what? Speaking of moving the needle, one of the articles we read really emphasized the importance of setting clear goals for your business.
Right. I think that was from the National Association of Realtors.
Yeah. And they stressed that it's not enough to just have a big, vague goal. You've got to break it down into smaller steps, things you can actually do.
So instead of saying, I want to sell more homes, it's like, I'm going to make 10 new contacts every day.
Exactly. It's all about making it manageable, creating a roadmap that actually gets you to where you want to go.
It's like those mile markers they have in a marathon, right?
Yeah.
Makes it feel less overwhelming.
Totally. And then the key is to track your progress. See how you're doing and make changes as you go.
Right. It's not just setting a goal and forgetting about it. You got to keep tabs on it, make sure you're on track.
Exactly. It's all about optimizing, constantly adjusting your approach based on what's working.
I like that. It's like this feedback loop, right? You set a goal, you take action, you look at the results, and then you tweak things based on what you've learned.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about continuous improvement.
And you know what? It's not just about real estate either. That approach works in like all aspects of life.
So true. It's a fundamental principle of success.
Well, it feels like we've covered a lot today. I mean, from proactive planning to goal setting, from technology to relationships.
Yeah, we've been all over the real estate map.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty energized, ready to put some of these ideas into action.
Me too. It's exciting to see how much innovation is happening, even in a market that's in flux.
Right. There's so many opportunities to be creative, to connect with people, to really make a difference.
Absolutely. It's all about having the right mindset, the right tools, and the willingness to adapt and evolve. Speaking of evolving, have you noticed the changing dynamics of co-buying?
Oh, yeah. We touched on that earlier, but there's definitely more to unpack there. Unmarried couples buying homes together. It's fascinating, but I can imagine it comes with its own set of challenges.
It is. And sometimes, those challenges, they can be like emotional as well as financial.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you're talking about two people with their own hopes and dreams, maybe different ideas about what they want in a home, how they want to live their lives.
Exactly. And real estate agents, they're kind of like relationship therapists sometimes,
Yeah.
helping couples navigate those conversations, making sure everyone's on the same page.
So what kind of advice is out there for agents who are working with co-buyers?
Well, this article I was reading in RAS Media, it stressed, like big time, the importance of communication.
Okay, that makes sense. You got to be able to talk things through,
Right.
especially when you're making such a huge decision together. But how do you make sure those conversations actually happen?
That's where the co-ownership agreement comes in. It's super important.
Right. Like we talked about before, it spells out all the details about finances and responsibilities. But what about if, the relationship doesn't work out?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. The agreement needs to address that, too.
Okay, so like who gets the house? How do they divide things up?
Exactly. And how any debts are going to be handled, even down to like who keeps the furniture. It's all got to be in there.
Wow, that's a lot to think about.
Yep.
It's not just about love and happy endings.
Nope. It's about being realistic and protecting everyone involved.
So being proactive, having those tough conversations early on, easier said than done sometimes.
It is, but so worth it in the long run. And it's not just co-buyers who need that proactive approach either. Agents need it too.
How so?
Well, one of the things that really stood out to me in that RAS Media article was the advice about having an exit strategy.
An exit strategy. Okay, what do they mean by that?
So, like, what happens if the couple decides to sell? Or if one of them wants to move out?
Right.
It's all about thinking ahead. What are the different scenarios that could play out and how are you going to handle them?
Kind of like a contingency plan.
Exactly. Because things happen, right? Relationships change, jobs change, people's priorities change.
Life throws you curveballs.
It does. And being able to adapt, to pivot, that's crucial in real estate.
Agreed. Which brings us to another one of those curveballs. Private listing networks.
Oh, yeah, those PLNs. They're definitely shaking things up a bit.
So remind me, what are they all about again?
There are those networks where agents can share listings among themselves. They're not on the MLS, so the public doesn't see them.
Right. Like a secret society for houses. I get why some people might be a little iffy about them.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely some concerns. Some folks think it gives certain buyers and sellers like an unfair advantage.
And it's not very transparent, right? If the listings aren't out in the open, how can buyers know what's out there?
Exactly. And it can make it harder to figure out what a property is actually worth.
So why would an agent choose to use a PLN then?
Well, some agents say it's a way to offer more personalized service. Like if you have a high-profile client who wants to keep things private.
Okay. I guess that makes sense in some cases.
Okay.
But it does feel a bit like a gray area, ethically speaking.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out, whether there'll be more regulation or what.
It's another example of how technology is changing the game in real estate.
Absolutely. And not just with PLNs, right? I mean, think about all the tools agents are using these days just to like manage their time.
Right. Those scheduling apps, the transaction management platforms, even the ones that block social media. It's amazing.
It is. It's all about leveraging technology to be more efficient, more productive.
So you can focus on the things that really matter. Building relationships, serving your clients.
Exactly. And speaking of technology, remember that Housing Wire article we were talking about? The one with all the tips for getting listings?
Oh, yeah. It has some really creative ideas.
Yeah, and some of them were all about using technology to generate leads.
Like what?
Well, they were talking about things like running social media ads, specifically ones that offer home valuations.
Ooh, that's smart.
Right. You're giving people something valuable, and you're targeting homeowners who might be thinking about selling.
It's all about being in the right place at the right time with the right message.
Exactly. And then there was this whole thing about using predictive analytics to identify potential sellers.
Wait, predictive analytics, what is that? Sounds futuristic.
It kind of is. It's like using data and algorithms to figure out who's most likely to sell their home.
So it's like those algorithms that recommend products to you online, but for houses.
Basically, they look at things like how long someone's been in their home, their income, even their online activity. It's crazy.
It's like having a crystal ball. But I guess even with all this technology, it still comes down to human connection, right?
Oh, absolutely. Technology is a tool. It can help you find those potential clients. But it's up to you to build those relationships, to earn their trust.
It's the human touch that makes all the difference.
Couldn't agree more. And that's something that keeps coming up in the articles we're reading, Technology can enhance what we do, but it can't replace those personal connections.
It's like that balance we were talking about before, finding that sweet spot between leveraging technology and staying true to that human element.
Exactly. And I think that applies to professional development, too.
Okay, how so?
Well, I was just reading this article in RAS Media about continuing education for real estate agents.
Right. It makes sense. The industry changes so fast, you got to stay up to date.
Exactly. And the article talked about how important it is, not just for the agent, but for their clients, too.
Oh, interesting. So how does it benefit clients?
Well, for one thing, it helps agents improve their skills and knowledge.
Right. Which leads to better service for clients.
Exactly. And it helps them stay competitive, too. The market's crowded. You got to keep learning to stand out.
So if you're the agent who's always taking courses, attending conferences, you're going to be ahead of the game.
Exactly. And it can boost your confidence too. When you know your stuff, you feel more confident working with clients.
That makes sense. Confidence is key.
It is. And the article also mentioned that continuing education can help agents expand their network.
Oh, that's huge. Meeting new people, making connections.
Totally. It can lead to referrals, partnerships,
Yeah.
even new career opportunities.
So it's not just about learning, it's about growing your business too.
Exactly. It's an investment in yourself. And you know what? It doesn't have to be all formal courses and conferences either.
Really? What else is there?
Well, things like reading industry publications, listening to podcasts like this one, attending webinars, even just following thought leaders on social media. It all adds up.
It's about making learning a part of your daily routine.
Exactly. Being curious, staying informed, always looking for those new insights.
And sometimes those insights come from unexpected places.
Oh, absolutely. Like, remember that article we read about time management? It was written for real estate agents, but the advice was so good. I was like, everyone needs to read this.
I know. It was all about being intentional with your time, setting boundaries, prioritizing tasks.
It's like fundamental stuff, right? But so easy to forget.
Totally. Sometimes we overcomplicate things. The basics are always a good place to start.
Exactly.
So we've talked about personal connections, technology, professional development. Is there anything else that's really standing out to you from all these articles?
You know what I keep coming back to? Mentorship. It's so important, especially for new agents who are just starting out.
Mentorship. Yeah. I've had some incredible mentors in my life, and I try to mentor others whenever I can. It's a powerful thing.
I was reading this piece on Housing Wire about how mentorship benefits both the mentor and the mentee.
Oh, for sure. It's not a one-way street. Everyone gets something out of it.
Exactly. The article highlighted like a bunch of benefits. For the mentee, obviously, it's a chance to learn from someone who's been there, done that.
Someone who's already made the mistakes you're about to make.
Right. And they can offer guidance, support, encouragement, help you avoid those pitfalls, you know.
It's like having a shortcut to success, but not in a cheesy way. More like someone to guide you along the path.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But it's not about having someone tell you exactly what to do, you know. It's more about having someone to bounce ideas off of, to get feedback from.
And to learn from their experiences, both good and bad.
Exactly. It's a real partnership.
And for the mentor, it's an opportunity to give back, to help shape the next generation of agents.
Absolutely. And there's something really rewarding about that, you know, seeing someone you've mentored grow and succeed.
It's like leaving a legacy.
Yeah, it is. And it's also a chance to learn new things yourself.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, when you're mentoring someone, you have to explain things, right? To articulate your thought process, to break down your expertise into something someone else can understand.
So it forces you to think about things in a new way.
Totally.
Yeah.
And your mentee might have different perspectives, different ways of doing things that you hadn't considered before.
So everyone wins.
Exactly. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be this big formal thing.
You don't need to submit an application or anything.
Nope. It can be as simple as reaching out to someone you admire and asking to pick their brain over coffee.
Or offering to help someone who's just starting out.
Exactly. Just be proactive. Build those relationships. You never know where they might lead.
Love that. So mentorship, professional development, anything else we should be thinking about?
You know what? All of this is great, but it's all for nothing if you don't know your numbers.
Okay, hit me with it. What numbers are we talking about here?
Well, one of the articles this week, it was talking about business plans.
Okay.
And it said, a good business plan, it doesn't just talk about your goals. It tells you what you need to do today to reach them.
Right. Like break it down into concrete steps.
Exactly. It's about knowing your closing ratio, how many appointments you need each week to hit your targets, that kind of stuff.
So being data-driven, using those numbers to make smart decisions.
Exactly. Don't just go on gut feeling, right? Look at the data, make adjustments based on what you're seeing.
It's about being accountable to yourself, to your goals.
Totally. It's easy to get lost in the day-to-day, but those numbers, they keep you focused, you know? Make sure you're moving in the right direction.
They keep you honest.
That's a good way to put it.
So we've got our proactive planning, our technology, our professional development, our data.
Yeah.
Is there anything we're missing?
You know what? Sometimes I think the simplest things are the most powerful.
Like what?
Like thank you notes.
Oh, yeah. Remember that article we read about those? How they can really make you stand out?
It's so true. In a world of emails and texts, a handwritten note, it's like a breath of fresh air.
It's a personal touch. It shows you care.
And people remember that. It can lead to referrals, to stronger relationships, to more business down the road.
It's the little things.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have everything from PLNs to thank you notes.
From co-buying to knowing your numbers, from leveraging technology to the power of human connection. And through it all, it feels like there's this underlying theme of like being adaptable and proactive.
Totally. Being willing to embrace change, to learn new things, to try new approaches.
And at the end of the day, it's about finding what works for you, right?
Mhm.
Building a business that feels authentic and fulfilling.
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to success in real estate.
So true. There are many paths to the top of the mountain.
And the best path is the one that you create for yourself, the one that feels right for you, for your goals, for your life.
Beautifully said. Well, I think that's a great note to end on. Listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of real estate. It's an exciting, ever-changing industry, full of opportunities for growth and innovation.
And as always, we encourage you to be curious, to stay informed, and to never stop learning.
Until next time, happy diving.
If you're interested in your own personalized edition of The Wire, please visit us at thewire.fm/custom. We offer market-specific podcasts with all the latest real estate news and market analysis delivered to you weekly or monthly. Own your market with a personalized edition of The Wire, the week in real estate. Thank you for listening.